A proposal to build the tallest wind farm in the country is facing pushback in regional New South Wales. Residents in the Carbone Shire are concerned the project to build 63 wind turbines with a maximum height of 254 metres will impact the value of their land. They say too there's been very little consultation with the UK developer RES. Sky News senior reporter Carolyn Marcus has been covering the issue. Here's what some of the locals have had to say.
Noise, light flicker, there'll be red flashing lights on top for aviation purposes, obviously.
If these wind turbines are so safe and so beautiful to view, why aren't governments placing them in metropolitan Sydney and Melbourne?
Until they can address these fundamental issues with this proposal, this project should be put on the burner.
I'll say again, many of these wind turbine and solar companies are foreign owned. And when the tariff on Chinese turbines comes off around April, we can expect a flood into the market. Joining me now for my panel, we'll discuss this and more, former Liberal MP Nicole Flint and Pauline Hanson's One Nation Chief of Staff, James Ashby. Well, Nicole, you know, all of the reflecting to the green gods in the cities, why do country people have to cop this?
That's a very good question, Peter, and we may only assume it's because less of us live in the country than we do in the city. But this is an issue for all Australians. Let's be very clear. With the height and the size and the limited lifespan, I understand, of, only 20 years or so, the Labor government is planning to cover the Australian landscape in wind towers and solar panels. It's essentially economic and environmental vandalism. So we're putting our environment at risk. These things can't be recycled at end of life. Their lifespan is apparently only 20 years. But then there's the economic destruction as well. Taxpayers are funding these things, and we seem to be lining the pockets of foreign-owned companies, as you have pointed out, Peter. They wouldn't be investing here if there weren't generous government subsidies. So it's warping the market, and it's really unfair, not just to country people, but to all Australians who are footing the bill for this and will have to face the environmental damage in due course when they have to be decommissioned.
Hey, James, a shocker of a day for Queenslanders up your way. You've got Stephen Miles today under pressure to legislate a new 75% emissions target. Plus, we learn about that secret polling, $400,000 worth, that helped push Palaszczuk out the door.
Well, if Stephen Miles thinks that legislating 75% reduction in carbon by 2035 is the answer to him getting re-elected for a fourth term under Labor at the October election, I think he's got a whole lot of grief coming his way. But what I find really amazing is he spent half of today in the Parliament actually trying to encourage the leader of the LNP to come up with their environmental credentials. Now, we always know that the LNP have signed up to net zero under Scott Morrison, so we know where the LNP sit on this as well. I can assure people, if One Nation have any say in the next state parliament here in Queensland, there's no way we will put our people through that suicide-wrecking mess of net zero or 75% reduction by 2035. This is suicidal. We've seen, as Nicole's rightfully pointed out, manufacturing. When you have a look at the 50s and 60s, we had 25 to 28% of our GDP came from manufacturing. It's now down to about 5%, and it's just decreasing. The more we send a wrecking ball through our baseload power, and that is by getting rid of coal fire and gas, we're just destroying the manufacturing and jobs that we like here in Queensland. Unfortunately, we're going to have to find new jobs in the future, which no one knows what they're going to be at this point.
Nicole, this makes me really furious. This is a Commonwealth-funded entity, the National Cervical Screening Program. If you look at the government's website, this is the Department of Health's website, it says women and people with a cervix, blah, 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 have a right to testing every 5 years. Now, women are the only people with a cervix.
Yeah.
That's right, Peter. The biological fact is that if you have a cervix, you are a woman. When are we going to see this end? When are we going to see women not continue to be discriminated against and having to continue to fight for the very definition of the word that describes us, and now, the word, a female-specific body part as well. It's just ridiculous.
Hard enough to see a doctor as it is without trying to have blokes line up for this.
It is.